Hi, my name is Will, and I'm here to tell you about our position paper. Data authenticity, consent, and provenance for AI are all broken. What will it take to fix them? So first, let's start by talking a bit about what the problem we're considering actually is. As we know by now, there's a lot of research that's shown this, including the original scaling laws study cited here. Generative AI systems work best with enormous scale, to some degree of model parameters, certainly the compute used to train the models, and also training data sets. Good performance depends on large and diverse pre-training and alignment fine-tuning data sets, which people obtain from around the web as well as offline sources. But all this raises the question of where these data sets come from, whose work, from where, produced and made available under what conditions, ultimately goes into them. Even more to the point, what's in them? What do these data sets actually contain? Unfortunately, the answer is that we don't really know. There's not much visibility into the composition of commercial models training corpora because companies want to keep it secret for competitive reasons. There's more transparency with open models, but the original data sets that go into them aren't always thoroughly documented or documented consistently. Because the data sets are very large, this makes it hard to understand their composition or do research about it. Now, of course, you might wonder why this problem matters. What are some real consequences of not understanding model training data? Glad you asked. There's a whole range of bad things that can happen, from terms of use violations and breach of contract to copyright infringement, which among other things open up legal risks and can pose ethical problems. There have even been cases of CSAM being found in image model training datasets. But that's not all. Models trained on personally identifying information can also leak it at inference time, or perpetuate various kinds of unexamined stereotypes that were, unbeknownst to the model creators, present in the training data. To provide some more systematic evidence, a recent audit of fine-tuning datasets found that 65%, nearly two-thirds, of the ones on Hugging Face with crowdsourced license metadata had the wrong licenses. It's a problem for anyone who needs this information to be correct. Now, let's talk a bit about how people have tried to address these issues so far. They certainly haven't gone unnoticed. There's work on watermarking content, either generated or natural, to help people distinguish between AI and natural content. Sites already use robots.txt to try to exclude model training data crawlers, and there's work on next-generation replacements for it and updates to it. Finally, there's also a number of data provenance and documentation standards that have been proposed and are being used. All of these things address different aspects of the problem, but they're unevenly adopted, they can be defeated in practice, and they aren't systematic across the whole space. There are also more systematic sources of metadata, but they all have various issues, from correctness to scalability to being modality specific. So, what do we need? One very important thing is to have wide adoption. There's a lot of provenance information that isn't collected at all now that should be. The many datasets that don't have license information available are a great example. All this missing data causes a lot of friction for everyone, and it's important to collect it, but in a way that doesn't pose too much friction for dataset creators. The other important point is that provenance information needs to be collected more systematically. There are many standards and sources for it, but in this case, the whole is less than the sum of its parts. Without standardization, it's very hard to use the metadata that's available, it's hard to keep it up to date, and it's hard to expand it. Now, in lieu of proposing a new standard to fix these problems, which we are definitely not doing, we want to make the simpler, prior point that this problem is important, that it's a single, cohesive problem, and that the community should focus on it and try to come together in solving it. There are many parts to this data provenance problem, but we think they're all ultimately aspects of the same problem. Science, law, policy, and fairness concerns can all benefit from a coordinated move in machine learning to take data provenance seriously. But we'll all need to come together to do that. It's a community-wide problem that can't be solved without the involvement of the whole community. We can, and we should, all contribute to solving it, and we'd all benefit from doing so. Thanks for listening. Please check out the paper and get in touch.